Because I've had a different philosophy. Of course, it's not something I don't want to do, make a lot of money quickly. However, what I've done over the years, rather, is had the philosophy of building wealth slowly over time. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is building wealth slowly, or getting rich slowly versus getting rich quick, because getting rich quick doesn't work. Who do you know who got rich quick? And we have all these people and these gurus who, oh, I made millions of dollars in 90 days. And it's like, yeah, you know what? There's more to that story than it sounds. And so let's explore that a little bit today. Before I do that, I do record all of these live shows. I put them on my university, on my website, sellingcoaching.com. So you can go check that out there. I help coaches transition to a full-time business. If you want to start off with some great resources right on the homepage of sellingcoaching.com, you can enter your name and email. That's going to not only put you in my email community, but it's also going to give you my audio recording of the launching your coaching business, the first 3 vital steps. Great resource for you right there. With that being said, let's talk about getting rich slowly. And so it's a different philosophy, and it comes down to expectation, because at the end of the day, getting rich quick, it's like getting fit quick. Like, does it work? Well, no, it doesn't. And even if, like I said, even if it does, like, can we create results? Absolutely. In a short amount of time? Absolutely. But here's the thing about entrepreneurship. It's a simple fact that when we create results, we can create them in a short amount of time, but it's the consistency of them. In other words, when am I going to be able to do this again, and in what amount? And that tends to stretch out over time, meaning I've worked with people, and in our first couple sessions, our first session, they go do some activities and they come back like, oh my God, I just got a brand new client. And there's people that I've worked with for 6 months and they haven't gotten a new client yet. And it doesn't mean that they're not doing that work. It just means we can't predict when we're going to create results. And there's a whole bunch of different strategies out there and things like that. But the thing is that when it comes to entrepreneurship, you're always starting at zero. So it doesn't matter what you created for income today, or for this week, or for this month, or for this calendar year. You know what? The next week, the next month, the next year, you're always starting at zero. And in the beginning, you don't have, most likely, a big enough audience where you can monetize, meaning create income from, on a consistent basis or on a large amount of volume basis. It's about the audience we're exposed to, right? So when you hear people like, oh, get rich quick, and all these different strategies and stuff where you can earn a lot of money quickly, you have to recognize that, if you're, and a lot of people say it like, oh, you're starting even with no audience, right? It's like, all right, but there's a lot that goes into that. And there's a lot of costs and investments, Facebook ads, setting all that stuff up. So in other words, there's also a lot of risk involved in that, right? It doesn't mean it's not a viable way of doing things, but you also have to recognize there's no such thing as doing it quickly, right? What I want to talk today about is now the philosophy of how do we do this slowly? It's a different mindset. It's a different expectation of result. So in other words, when I work with my mentor coaching clients, when I work with myself, what I'm teaching is let's not focus on the outcome results, how much money we're earning this month or year, how many clients we're getting in a certain amount of time frame, how much we're getting paid in a certain time frame, but rather I want to focus our activities on I want to focus our goals and our results on the activities that will create the results that we're looking for. So I actually don't care how much money I earn in a calendar year. The number isn't important to me. I don't have like, oh, I'm going to earn $100,000 this year. I'm going to earn $200,000 this year, or whatever that is. I have a barometer. I have a pace that I'm on, and I look like, oh, what did I earn this month? Okay. Well, if that were to continue on for the next 12 months, here's what I would earn for the year. Does that look and feel like something that's good for me based on what I know I want, I need, all that good stuff, right? And I can adjust accordingly, right? And in the beginning, right, you can have your first month And you could say, oh, I earned $1,000 this month, right? So if I were to continue with this for the rest of the year, I'd earn $12,000 for this year, right? That might not be more, it might be not enough for you when you're starting off, right? But the point is that let's not be so concerned about what that's going to produce for the end of the year. Let's not look at the income goal. Let's look at the activities we're doing. And then at the end of a given time frame, we can say, well, what results have they produced for us? Are they desirable? Are they not desirable? Right? Regardless of how you judge them, desirable or not desirable, those are your results, right? So now, as opposed to like judging them as like, oh, because even if you hit your mark, you always want more. You always want to do better, right? So in other words, what I'm suggesting is a different philosophy that says, let's not focus on the tangible outcome result goals. Let's focus on the activity goals that will produce them. And then let's see rather what they're creating. And I'm not saying, don't have your goals, don't have like, oh, I want to earn X amount of dollars in a year or in a month or things like that. Like you can have those goals, but you also have to look at, what are the activities I'm doing to get those goals or those results? And that's a different philosophy. It's a different way of looking at things. And then you also got to recognize, and you've got to honor the reality of how results are created in anything in life. And if I was talking to anybody out there, I don't care who it is, and I were to say, can you do this quickly? Can you get fit quickly? Can you create this awesome relationship quickly? Can you create a lot of money in a short amount of time, right? It doesn't mean you can't do that, but it's the sustainability of that, right? You can meet someone and fall in love and madly in love and be like, oh my God, this is the one. This is the most perfect relationship. But you've been together for a minute. How's that going to survive forever, right? So you come into your goal, into your business, and you create, a 5-figure month or a 6-figure month somehow in your business right out of the gates. Okay, fantastic. So what about the next month? What about the next 20, 30 years of you doing this business? Now, I've been doing this full-time since 2004. Call it 17 plus years. That's still a minute. In other words, I'm 45. I got a crap load of time left where I've got to be earning money. Who cares how much or little money I've earned? Or I'll say this, who cares how much money I've earned in that given time frame, that given year? Because guess what? There's still more ahead of you. And so that's what I'm talking about here. It's not get rich quick. It's how do we get rich, or how do we build wealth slowly so it lasts and is sustainable over time? That's the mindset I want you to have. Don't go out. I'm not saying don't go after and go hard and produce some fantastic results as quickly as you possibly can. I'm just saying educate those expectations so when or if they don't happen to the volume or level you'd wish or want them to or hope them to, you're not disappointed. In other words, don't have unrealistic expectations. Set unrealistic goals. Set goals that blow your mind. Oh my God, dream, have a vision board, do all that fantastic stuff. I'm not saying don't do any of that stuff. I'm just saying infuse some, not even reality into it, infuse some logical, solid, foundational, well thought out expectations, and take a look at the activities that you're doing day in and day out that you're consistent with over time that can produce those things. That's where you can rest and feel good about what you're doing. Is if I do the work. Now I've been doing this long enough to know that if I do the work, I'm going to create the results. Because I also have the skill sets to back it up. This is what I teach with my groups and my one-on-one mentor coaching and the stuff I do if you're working with me, as I teach this stuff. It's like, this is going to happen quickly. But I have that to back it up so I can trust that what I'm doing today, if I do it tomorrow and the next day and the next day for a long amount of time, and I create the opportunities, that's going to turn into business. I can trust that. In the beginning, I couldn't trust that because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And when I learned what to do, I didn't do it enough, or I still didn't have the skill sets developed enough where I could follow through and get the results. Like some of my clients I'm working with now, it's great because they're getting an opportunity to get a client, and I'm walking them through the process, and we're having back and forth conversations, and here's what to do next. Here's how to say this, and they're doing it, right? And somewhere along the way, like another client, emailed me, they're like, I think I have a client, but I don't know how to accept payment. We got on the phone quick, and we talked it through, and And then I get an email back from her, later that day. She's like, I think I lost her. And I'm like, well, just be patient. Like, follow up with them again. And if you don't hear from them, by Monday, follow up with them again, right? But it's a process, right? So you're going to be missing on things because you haven't developed a certain skill sets, right? But as you get more and more opportunities like that, you're going to get better and better, right? But you have to acknowledge there's a developmental process. The whole get rich quick is like, having a child and, getting them and like, all right, why aren't you walking yet? Right? There's a certain expectation that's going to take maybe 8 to 13 months for a human being to learn how to walk, right? So if you're talking to a child, at 5 months, why aren't you walking yet? And you're yelling at the child, it's a little ridiculous. That's exactly what you're doing with yourself when you do this business and you're in your first 3, 5, 6, 8, 10 months and you're not walking yet even and you're pissed at yourself. It's like yelling at a baby, why the hell aren't you walking? It sounds stupid when you say it because there's realistic expectations. Now, could a child walk at 7 months? I know my son walked at 8 months, right? But is that, I'm sure there's stories out there like, my kid walked at 5 months, but that's the anomaly, right? So the getting rich quick or someone doing, in 90 days or 60 days or whatever it is, like that's the anomaly. It's the part of the curve that doesn't happen very often, if ever, the 1 in a million things. So is it possible? Yeah. But just because it's possible for that person doesn't mean it's possible for you. You answer that question, right? I'm going to say maybe. Well, there's a possibility. It opens up the door. It's just like the 4-minute mile. Roger Bannister, I forget the year, whatever it was, right? No one had broken the 5-minute mile. And the next thing you know, Roger Bannister runs it in 4 minutes and however many seconds. And the next thing you know, in the next X amount of months, there's, hundreds of people breaking the barrier because no one ever thought they could do it. And now someone is, right? But does it mean that you're going to do it? Well, not necessarily. But what do you need to do in order to run that fast, right? You've got to start the training. You've got to start the diet. You've got to start right? And it's going to take time. It's right. There are people that are posed to be in that position because they've been working hard over time and then they start to break through. And it's that breakthrough, right? That goes back to the book Good to Great by Jim Collins, right? It's the flywheel. It's turn after turn, push after push on the flywheel to get it going. And people start to see, oh my God, this guy, this girl, all these marketers out there who are having these, flying in their jets and, with their Bentleys in the background and all that good stuff, right? Like we don't know the real story behind that. I worked with a lot of those people. Like even myself, I'm not in Bentleys and all that good stuff. Like I earn a decent living for myself, right? It's not crazy and wild, but it's good. But it hasn't happened overnight. It's taken decade plus. And that's what I want for it to happen for you because that's sustainable. And if you have some wild spikes within there, I've had some wild spikes. I've had some crazy months here and there, and I've had some really poor months here and there, but you have to take it as that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. But we have to understand that. And if we poise ourselves for that and we sit back and go like, all right, this is a long run. This is a long game. I'm going to give it everything I can right now. I want to push as hard as I can. But, in this business is done in spurts and, bits of effort and then recovery, bits of effort, then recovery. So I tell my clients all the time, but take your time with this and recognize it will take time. And it's a different philosophy, but we've got to build wealth over that time, right? And the first part is, and I'd say that first 5 years or so, if I'm giving you like time frames, your first 5 years is where you're really getting good at the mechanics and the skill sets and figuring things out and getting your business where it's more consistent with income as opposed to I had a $3,000 a month and it was at zero and then it was at 1,000, then it was at zero, then it was at 2,000, then it was at zero, and then each time that income bar gets raised a little bit as you go forward, right? And now you have a $5,000 a month and then a $2,000 a month. And then a $4,000 and then 1,000, and then all of a sudden you're at a $6,000 a month and then a $3,000 a month. And it keeps going. The trajectory is up. It's like kind of like a stock market in some ways, as long as it's bullish or bearish, right? But the point is it slowly starts to go up. And it doesn't mean every year you're going to earn more money than the last, but there should be some steady progression, but then you're past that 5-year mark. Now you should have, when I say mastered, you should have a lot more mastery over the skill sets. You should have a lot more consistency within your business So now your income month after month is a lot more consistent than it was where you're having the highs and the lows. Doesn't mean you still have highs and lows, but your lows won't be as low and your highs won't be as high. You'll have more of what I would say the flatline effect. That takes time. And then over there, your business and you start to evolve. But if you notice, I'm talking now into that 5+ to that decade mark. But the fact that you can be in business that long for yourself and actually it be a business, which means you're earning enough money to support yourself, your family, your household, above and beyond, like that's the goal. So don't think of it in terms of like, oh, I want to do this quickly. It's just like, I want to do this long enough so in 5 years I'm still in the game. In 10 years I'm still in the game. I'm doing this. I've been in the game 17 years, but I know that's also nothing. Like I've got to keep this going for another, 5, 10, 15 years, et cetera, or more. And that's the philosophy that I've had. That's the philosophy that I teach. And that's the philosophy that I want for you because I've seen that it works. And that's something that is attainable. That's something that is a real thing. You can talk to other people and people can go, yes, that's a real thing. Doing things in bursts in terms of getting rich quick, doing things quickly and stuff like that, like that's not really a real thing. It's a real thing for, 0.00 whatever percent of the population, and if you knew the real story, you'd realize, oh, it wasn't really like a 90-day thing. There were probably decades worth of work and effort and trial and error and audience building and skill set development that led to a point in time where they started something and in 90 days they were earning millions or millions of dollars. But you can't say that it happened in 90 days. You can say that it's happened over the last decades. And that's the stuff where we've got to be smart enough to recognize and not be fooled by that because we want something now. You can want something now, but you've got to recognize and have the patience and the discipline to create it over time. That's what I have to say for you today. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. I'll be here next week. I'll be here next year. I'll be here the year after that in some form or another, right? The question is, will you be? And I want the answer to be unequivocally, absolutely yes. It's just you take that day by day.